Everyone thinks an aging Volkswagen engine is a lost cause. But what if the problem isn't the engine at all? What if a few tiny, stupidly simple fixes could make it feel brand new again? Before you consider rebuilding it, here are the simple things that bring a Volkswagen back to life. Number 8, the intake temperature sensor that lies to you. It's funny how people blame spark plugs, injectors, coils, sensors, everything under the sun when a Volkswagen starts acting weird. But sometimes the problem isn't fuel, spark, or air. It's the brain of the engine getting the wrong temperature. When the intake temperature sensor gets old, it starts lying. It reads colder than reality. And the ECU, being the paranoid little genius it is, reacts by dumping extra fuel and raising the idle. Suddenly the throttle feels lazy. The exhaust smells like fuel. The car starts running rich, and it behaves like a cold morning start even when the engine is fully warm. Replace the sensor and the change feels ridiculous. The throttle wakes up instantly, the idle stops wobbling, fuel economy jumps back to normal, and the whole engine feels lighter without touching a single mechanical part. Most people are shocked that a tiny, cheap temperature sensor can make a VW feel like it just shed 40,000 kilometers of age. Number 7, cleaning the turbo actuator, not the turbo. Everyone talks about cleaning the turbo. Carbon on the blades, sticky vanes, boost leaks. Yep, all of that matters. But there's a tiny, forgotten part that actually controls the turbo, the actuator. It's basically a little robot arm that decides how much boost you get. And when it starts sticking, the car feels confused. You press the accelerator and the engine just sits there like it's thinking about life, and only then decides, fine, I'll move. Revealing tone. Clean or lubricate the actuator and the turbo wakes up instantly. The car stops hesitating, boost comes in smoothly, and suddenly it feels like someone finally took the handbrake off. Most people rebuild the entire turbo when all they needed was a clean actuator. The difference is night and day, and you won't believe how invisible the problem was until you feel the fix. Number 6, the ground straps nobody checks. Here's a weird one. Some Volkswagen engines only misfire when you turn on the AC, the headlights, or even the radio. It sounds like black magic, but it's just electricity doing what electricity does. Those little braided ground straps bolted between the engine and the chassis carry the entire electrical return. When they corrode, everything gets unstable. The ignition coils fire weaker, the sensors start jittering, and the ECU has a minor panic attack trying to make sense of the noise. That's when the car starts shaking, stumbling, or idling like it drank bad fuel from a roadside tea stall. Clean the ground straps, tighten them, and the engine suddenly feels like it got a brand new electrical system. The idle stabilizes, the misfires vanish, the throttle responds instantly, and all of that happens in a few minutes, not hours. It's the kind of fix a mechanic does in silence, and the customer walks away thinking they're a wizard. And here's the funny part. There's another hidden component that causes the same rough engine, weird misfire behavior, but almost nobody thinks to check it. It's so simple, most people don't even know their car has one. Number 5, the coolant pump with a plastic impeller. Volkswagen did a thing, a weird thing. They put plastic impellers in some of their water pumps. When those plastic blades start wearing out, the engine doesn't explode or throw a big warning. It just overheats slightly, just enough for the ECU to panic and pull timing to protect the engine. And that's the moment your VW starts to feel old. The throttle gets dull, acceleration feels heavy, and the car suddenly acts like it gained 20 extra years overnight. Swap it for a pump with a metal impeller, and the difference is immediate. The engine runs cooler, timing returns to full advance, power comes back, and the whole car feels smoother and more willing to move. It's the moment most people ask, wait, all that missing power was because of the water pump? Yup. Number 4, intake valve cleaning. This isn't generic fuel system cleaning. This is the real one, walnut blasting. Direct injection Volkswagen engines don't wash their intake valves with gasoline like older port injection cars, so the valves never get cleaned. Instead, Oil vapors and carbon bake onto them over time, layer after layer, until they turn into a thick, black crust. After 80 to 120,000 kilometers, every one of these engines starts showing the same symptoms. The idle turns rough, power drops, low RPM vibration creeps in, fuel economy gets embarrassing, and acceleration begins to feel like the car is dragging a sofa behind it. A proper walnut blast strips that carbon right off, the idle becomes glass smooth again, the mid-range power returns, the turbo spools faster, and the engine suddenly feels light and cheerful instead of tired and breathless. You can hear the difference, and you can feel it in the pedal. It's not a myth, and it's not snake oil. It's pure physics, and it's one of the biggest new engine moments a VW owner ever feels. There is one sensor that fails so often that VW technicians carry spares. No, not O2, not MAP. Stay with me to find out. Number 3, the sensor Volkswagen owners always ignore. This one is almost funny. There's a sensor Volkswagen owners ignore until the car starts acting possessed. The crankshaft position sensor. It's the tiny sensor that tells the ECU exactly where the crank is, how fast it's spinning, and when to fire fuel and spark. If it starts to fail, the engine doesn't throw a warning. It just starts behaving like it's developing a personality disorder. The car will feel like it has random power drops for no reason. RPM starts jumping slightly at idle. Acceleration feels inconsistent, like the engine is awake one second and asleep the next. Sometimes it even stalls at traffic lights, but there's no check engine light and no obvious error code to point you in the right direction. The ECU is basically guessing, because the engine is losing track of itself in real time. Swap the crank sensor and the difference is immediate. Idle locks, in perfectly cold starts, become instant instead of slow and cranky, and the whole engine runs smoothly and predictably. The random misfires vanish, the hesitation disappears, and the car suddenly feels like it wakes up correctly every single time you touch the pedal. Most people replace injectors, fuel pumps, coils, and spark plugs when the whole problem was just the crank sensor quietly losing its mind. And the moment you replace it, the car behaves like a well-trained machine again. Number 2, software updates aren't just tech stuff. Here's one that most people laugh at. Software? That can't fix an engine. Except on a Volkswagen, it absolutely can. VW constantly pushes out ECU updates that change how the engine thinks. They tweak idle control, throttle mapping, fuel trims, timing corrections, cold start behavior, things you never see, but always feel. Owners ignore it because it sounds like some boring computer patch, not real mechanical work. But these updates are basically installing a new brain. Suddenly, the engine idles quietly, responds faster, runs cleaner, and shifts smoothly. Even cold starts stop sounding like the car is waking up from a coma. It's crazy to think a 5-minute software flash can make a tired VW feel tighter and more refined, but it happens every time. Mechanics see it daily. Someone walks in convinced their engine is dying, gets an update, and drives out wondering why the car suddenly feels younger. Sometimes modern engines don't need a wrench. They just need better instructions. Number 1, the motor mounts. The real feels new upgrade. This is the big one. The upgrade almost nobody thinks about, but everyone feels the moment it's done. Volkswagen engines are mounted softly from the factory. It makes the cabin quiet and smooth when the car is new. But as the mounts age, things slowly fall apart. The steering wheel begins to shake at idle. The shifter feels loose and rubbery, the cabin starts buzzing like an old taxi, and the engine back and forth every time you hit the accelerator. Most owners assume their engine is just old, tired, or worn out. But really, the mounts are doing nothing to hold the engine still anymore. Change the mounts, and the transformation is stupidly dramatic. The engine sits firm, acceleration hits immediately, and the whole car feels tight and solid instead of floaty and tired. The vibrations vanish, throttle response feels instant, and the engine even sounds cleaner because it's not shaking the firewall and chassis like a washing machine on spin cycle. This is the moment when friends get in and say, "Bro, what did you do? Did you rebuild the engine?" Nope, no rebuild, no magic, just new mounts and suddenly the whole Volkswagen feels like it was delivered yesterday. So before you rebuild your engine, don't, because sometimes one cheap fix can make everything work again. Want more deep dives into forbidden VW engines, insane diesel builds, or the fastest factory V-Wagons ever made? Drop your idea below. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with the one VW friend who thinks their engine is dying.